Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, we're gonna take you where the mountains meet the sea. It's Siftpop. You can't sing it.
Take me, Teddy.
You can't sing it because then I can't lay it underneath. I bet I still can. Welcome to this episode of Siftpop. It is streaming live on Mixlr every Friday or available to download later in your podcast feed. Unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
I'm Aaron Dicer from YourMovieFriend.com. I'm joined by Andrew Ormsby from Flick Freaks.
Ahoy!
Every week we'll be joined by Pop Culture Guru to chat about movies, television, whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. And today's guru, our friend from Geek.0, it's Sean.
Woo! Woo, woo.
Sean is joining us
Golf
for
clap.
what we're calling a quick pop.
Quick pop.
This is where we just hit one topic, kind of boom, done. These happen when we don't have time to really record a full Sif Pop with spoilers and all that kind of stuff.
You're a busy boy this week.
My goodness, I just I saw the Atlantic Ocean this morning, and I'll be seeing the Pacific Ocean tomorrow. So it's I'm doing a lot of travel. And if you know anything about Missouri, where we are right now, Atlantic,
there is
Pacific,
no ocean.
Nope, neither one of them's near here.
We got the Lake of the Ozarks, though.
And I have a haircut at 3:00, so we gotta kind of get through stuff.
Busy man.
Priority.
We thought we'd talk a little bit about Westworld Season 1 since it finished up. And I think there's a lot to mine there, obviously. But what we'll do is we'll kind of give some general thoughts on Westworld Season 1, how it did, what'd you think of it, and then we'll go into spoilers actually in the episode themselves. So
It'll be at the back end, mullet style.
yeah, absolutely. So go ahead. What do you got there, Sean? Do you have my holiday card from the Weinsteins?
Yes. So, when people come check out the office, I always get people going crazy over the nerd stuff I have all around, right?
Yeah.
Our technology, our electronics, my collection. Every time I walk into Aaron's world, it's like a glimpse into a world that I'll never quite be a part of. and I'm in awe. There are signed papers in here from Tom Ford.
I'm collecting those.
There's holiday
Did you see my
cards from the Weinsteins.
Arrival battery charger?
Oh my Lord! Your life is filled with the most awesome swag from studios and actors and actresses and directors.
You saw the post, the Manchester by the Sea poster that
I did. It's
Kenneth
gorgeous.
Kenneth
Lonergan
looks like, but he signed it. Yeah, so
yeah, yes.
it's nice. It's nice being kissed up to because you vote in an awards. That's all it is.
These letters from Tom Ford are the only things you and I will ever be able to afford from Tom Ford.
That's right.
Besides the ticket to his movie.
Good point.
Yeah, and I showed you the Arrival shirt, which is awesome.
I literally
cool
am, after this, I'm going on Amazon to see if I can find one.
One of the best pieces of swag ever.
It's nice, too. It's a long sleeve tee. I like long sleeve tees. I just wish it was about 2x more. Yeah, that's the script.
If I find it in a Henley or in a V-neck, then I am set.
Yeah, I've got. They usually send the scripts. I get scripts from about every awards contender movie that comes out. But
that's cool.
This isn't about awards.
That was
swag.
last week.
This is about Westworld. So, like I said, first little bit we'll just chat general. And then we won't fear the spoilers in the second half. We'll give you a warning when we're going into spoilers.
That sounded like it hurt.
Did you just crack your head with the headphones?
No, I'm okay.
Okay, all right.
At least it didn't go in my mouth.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Sean was running some internet cord for me here at the home studio and found a nest of spiders that fell into his mouth. So
dead spiders.
That actually
doesn't
happened.
make it better.
Slightly less.
As far as
creepy.
you know, maybe they were just playing dead.
That's
maybe they
all possum spiders.
I'm gonna have nightmares for weeks now.
Oh, I would have nightmares. Are you kidding me? If I was moving something and a whole bunch of spiders fell in my mouth,
my wife actually had to walk out of the room when I told her the story. She's like, "Stop! I don't know."
That's awful.
Nope.
That's awful. I think
Andy's here
just
again
for
today.
that,
That's a sign of a good friend.
Here, just for that, I am bequeathing unto you the Arrival battery charger.
What?
I'm not even kidding. That's yours.
How many spiders do I have to eat to get some stuff?
Hey, I gave you the Tom Ford.
Yeah,
I gave you the Tom Ford.
Even though it says Dear
and
Aaron on it.
I gave you a sausage party. I gave you a sausage party t-shirt.
You did give me a sausage party t-shirt.
Oh
that was
my
pretty
goodness,
great.
that is awesome.
All right. I'm done bribing my friends. We can talk about Westworld.
Indeed.
So let's just start here. Did you like it? Did you like season 1?
There is not a way to describe how much I love this show.
So huge, loved it.
Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, what do you think, Andrew?
I'm in the same boat. I was addicted on our channel. Our channel on YouTube became the Westworld channel because we were breaking down every single episode because there's so much to just dive into and question and stuff.
I was hoping one of you guys wouldn't have liked it as much
because you didn't.
Well, no. I actually really do like it, and but I hear a lot from some of the podcasts I listen to and some of the major TV critics that I love complain about it, and I was hoping to get more insight into that because they say it's all style and not much substance.
They're fools.
Well, when they say substance,
yes.
they don't mean like the intricate twists and turns that we think of substance. They mean like there's like the character work. They don't like the character work as much. They think that it's a bit more flashy than it is actually getting into the emotion of it. And see, here's the thing. I
couldn't disagree more.
I know, and I don't know how to explain it because I don't believe that. So I was hoping kind of one of you would have that perspective.
Sorry.
But no, I really liked it too.
I think this is one of those shows that's based on a movie that it's not classic cinema. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I love Westworld, but I know far more people who have no idea what it is than know what it is.
Okay.
And so it's based on something that has a pedigree, that has a story, and they took it and they did something different with it, unique, and it's just so good in so many aspects. I think there's a lot of people out there looking to find things not right with it because no one just wants to be just gushing nonstop over something that's exceptional. The show's great. And I thought characters were one of the most compelling parts of the show.
I feel like it's okay. This is people who know how I feel about the show I'm about to mention are going to be shocked by this. I think it's almost as good as Lost was.
Yeah.
And does something Lost never managed to do.
I was just going to say,
Answer
I like
the
it
questions.
better.
Which is really legitimately answer all the questions and then shift into a new show. Like, I feel like it's going to be a completely different show in season 2 in some ways,
I actually have a whole thing on that because Missy and I talked about Lost and this show.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this way surpasses Lost, and it does everything Lost wanted to do and absolutely never did.
I think it speaks volume. Oh, go ahead.
Well, here's where I would here's the only thing I think Lost has above Westworld, and maybe this is what some of those critics are talking about. I remember feeling deep emotion about some of like the Charlie episodes and the Locke episodes, about learning about who they were, with the flashbacks that we got in season 1 and just learning about what they were dealing with.
We've only had one season.
I know.
No, here's why you're not going
years.
to. There is
But in that first season, I remember feeling that.
I got you.
Even before there was a season 2.
In the show, there is no permanent ramifications for a character. They'll just come back.
Yeah.
That's why. With Charlie and them,
that's true.
they have a one and done.
Yeah.
Here,
Ish.
there's really no, yeah. Here, okay, fine. Here, if a character dies, they'll just come back because they can't really die.
We're not worried about spoilers here.
Well, we are. We're still in the non-spoiler
I think
section.
people know that the show is about robots.
Yeah.
That
so I think that's fair.
When somebody is quote unquote dead, they just
rebuild
them back on.
Yeah, they
just
rebuild them.
But I think one of the greatest and most compelling aspects of the show is the doubt. Okay. Who is, who isn't. And one of my favorite lines from the show is when William is getting ready for his introduction to the park. Mm-hmm. And he's
early on in the
show.
Okay. Episode 3 or something.
Episode 3, and this woman is serving him, by the way, who is beyond gorgeous, okay? Mm-hmm. And she is so subtle in her presentation, but very overt. It's hard to do both of those at the same time, but she's very good at it. And he touches her, and he asks her, "Are you real?" And she says, my favorite line in the show, "If you can't tell, does it matter?"
Yeah.
And one of the great compelling things in this show is that there are so many times where you start to wonder, is so-and-so real or not? Is this person an android or are they not?
And what does reality even mean?
Exactly. Yeah. And what does reality even mean? And what do connections with people really mean?
Right.
And I think they did something totally unique for an HBO show. So HBO is famous for 2 things, violence and sex. Mm-hmm. Those are things that their shows are all driven by. Okay.
Yeah. And there's plenty of that in Westworld. It's not like they don't leave it out.
But sex is used in an entirely different mechanic than it ever was before because intimacy.
It's not sexy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's always a mechanic.
That's a good point.
It's a mechanic, and they did a really good job of illustrating that. And I think Maeve's character, really exploits
Tandy
that.
Newton's the best part of the show.
I love her. Yeah, and she's
incredible.
She was my favorite character. And so I think there's a lot of mechanics at play here that make it so much better than some of the other shows like Lost, because I think there is an endpoint. And I can understand what you're saying because there's, or I should say, Aaron is saying, you have more invested in Lost because consequences. You know, you could potentially lose a person and that's it.
Well, and I just feel like when they would do, now I need to say they're different shows.
Totally.
They are different shows. They both have Abrams DNA in them, which is interesting. But I felt like with Lost, when they would take an episode and focus on, you know, like Walkabout with Locke, like there was something really deep there that I don't know that I felt at all in season 1 of Westworld. I didn't feel the same depth. I felt the same exuberation, or that's a weird word, exuberance, with a lot of the twists and the revelations and those kind of things. But anyways, I don't mean to repeat myself, but it's just, you know, I think there is a slight difference there. But I like I said, I think Westworld may be everything that Lost wanted to be.
Yes.
And I wonder if part of that has to do with they really actually do know where they want to go.
Yeah,
because Lost didn't.
Always got the feeling, no matter what interviews were had during the time that Lost was on the air, no matter what anyone involved with the show said, the show started with this really cool concept of, you know, the island and of course the bunker and what it could mean. And then they were like, wow, the show's so popular. We just have to find mindless excuses to keep it going for another 8 years.
Yeah, that was season
so let's
3.
keep introducing really weird, stupid stuff that makes no sense. We can keep leading people on towards a potential here or an arc of a potential solution. And then they'll find out, just kidding. There isn't really any meaning to it. And here's the next conundrum, you know?
Yeah.
And that's all that ever did for. And then by the time I got to 6, I'm like, resolve it.
Yeah, that's the thing a lot of people didn't like about Lost is they gave you every single episode they gave you 3 more questions and only 1 answer.
Yeah. Drove me nuts.
And this really felt like it started with all the questions and then answered most of them on the way and gave you a few more on the way. Like it felt like I think it really did that a lot better than Lost for especially an audience like, you know, a modern audience, what they want to see and kind of how they want to experience the show.
Yeah.
Any other general thoughts before we get into spoilers? Because
you want to talk negatives about the show?
Yeah, if you've got general negatives, absolutely.
Yeah, predictability. I think that a lot of people saw the twists that were coming. Like back in episode 3, I called, or me and my friends online, we called the twist, and it turned out to be right.
Yeah.
And here's another thing: whenever a twist was revealed, it drug out the reveal of that twist so long to the point where you're just like, you've done everything but say it at this point. Just go ahead and say it.
I agree. But I think there's a really interesting game of sleight of hand with some of those twists being, here's a twist you're going to figure out early, and you're going to be so focused on the fact that you've already figured out the twist that you're going to miss the actual twist.
Yeah.
And that worked. I mean, that worked for me. There were some things that happened in the finale. I shouldn't say some things. I should say one thing that happened in the finale I didn't see coming at all.
You want to get into spoilers? Because I'm
pretty
curious.
soon.
Yes.
Pretty soon.
Okay.
I loved the fact, to go right along with that, I think aside from the fact that Maeve's character was my absolute favorite, Ford was my second. Because I never knew from minute to minute.
Ford was my favorite, by the
whether
way. I
to
loved Anthony
like
Hopkins
him,
in this.
Yeah.
Whether to like him or hate him, okay?
Uh-huh.
Whether to fear him or be excited by him. And because of that, and he was the master of sleight of hand the entire show.
Yeah.
Every single time, either an employee or someone else thought they had an upper hand with Ford, he was always
in
far
control.
ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that.
He'd always been pulling the strings the whole way. And and that's what I loved. And even times when, because I did Andrew just as well, I called it. And I was like, I told my wife, and she goes, no. The big twist, you know? And sure enough, that's what ends up happening. And she goes, no, really? And so I think predictability was one of the weak spots, but I agree. Predictability lulls in this show, lulls you into this feeling of self-confidence about what you know, and then comes back with a left that you didn't see coming with something else.
And I think the show says we don't care that you know, too. Like, it's okay that you know.
Because
like, we weren't trying necessarily to trick you in that way.
And I don't want it to come across as me saying just because I understood the twist doesn't mean that the way they delivered the story and the story he was trying to tell wasn't phenomenal.
Exactly.
Sure.
Because that's totally different.
Absolutely.
Don't try and Shyamalan me for the sake of Shyamalaning me.
Yeah.
Have an actual decent story there.
Yes. And there was.
All right. let's get into spoilers from here on out. If you still haven't caught up on Westworld, season 1, and you don't want to be spoiled, save it. Just hit pause, come back to it once you've seen the rest of season 1, because we're going to go into spoilers here for the second half of this quick pop about Westworld. I think it's a good transition since we're talking about twists. I will
You
start
said there
here.
was one.
I'm assuming you guys are talking about knowing the Bernard twist.
No.
Because I told you that, like, after episode
Yeah.
3, I told you that Bernard was a robot.
And I told you that I thought that William was the younger version of Ed Harris.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's another one that everybody saw coming was
Yeah.
that William and Ed Harris were the same person.
Yeah. Are you talking about Anthony Hopkins and what happened?
Yeah.
Did not see that coming?
No, I didn't either. And I think that was the big one they wanted, they wanted to distract you. So
Which
when-
one
think
with
he's-
Anthony Hopkins?
Just
That
the
he's
end.
died.
The end that
Do you think
he was
he's really dead?
actually okay, listen. In this world, anything's possible. It could have been a robot he made of himself, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I think that would cheapen the show a lot. I actually really wouldn't like that if that wasn't actually
Because
his
here's my
human
theory.
form.
I think that was a host of him, because if you remember, whenever you find out that Bernard is a host, he is at the same time building another host in the same room. I think that
Yes.
he's building himself.
Yep.
So
Next generation.
I don't know.
2.0 version.
Yeah.
An improvement.
I
think
wouldn't
it's
like
a theory.
that.
It's a
I
theory.
wouldn't like that. I really like the resonance of the story seems to be complete in him being against Bernard. You think he's against Bernard the whole time, and actually he is just doing what Bernard wanted to do after he's learned his lesson. I love that story. Like I love that he's had a change of heart and that he's grown. And honestly, I don't know that Anthony Hopkins would do another season. Like
he's old.
Well, and more than that, he's just like he is Mr. Actor. Like
I was just
mean,
gonna
it's
say-
just like I don't know. He wants to get hooked into
I was shocked to see Anthony Hopkins in a TV show.
yeah.
So, and not to say that it wasn't good. Like if Anthony Hopkins was going to do a TV show, this was the one. But yeah, I don't see him in it for another season. And that saddens me, but it also leaves me, because of how well written the show is, it leaves me curious as to where they take it now.
I don't know where the show goes from here.
Well, let's save that for our final conversation.
Okay.
Let's go into a little more specifics about the show itself, specific things that you loved about it. I really loved Ed Harris's performance.
Oh, yes.
I
So
love the
good.
way the show in the final episode, when we see him in a tuxedo, he just looks like a completely different person. Like he almost looks smaller. Like he
Yeah.
just looks like he has shrunk. Like it's like
He's not as imposing.
right, because and you just
Presence
get the
has gone
feeling like
away.
that he knows that too, and that he is only at himself when he's actually in Westworld.
Yeah.
Which I really thought was interesting.
Yeah.
The
that's a good
final
point.
shot of this show is him getting shot in the arm with a real bullet, and him being so happy.
Yeah.
I
It's
love
It's like he
that.
wants to get his black hat back on.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? It's really interesting too. And to learn about we knew that William and him were the same pretty early on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's something interesting about that story that I didn't feel like I completely understood until the end about his relationship with
Dolores.
Yeah.
and about how he went back, and the reason he really progressed to be who he was because
remember.
she didn't remember who he
That
was.
was one of the most heartbreaking
Yeah.
things ever. Whenever he saw her and he was so happy and she just looked right past him.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was, I could definitely see that creating the Ed Harris character of, and then at the very end, she's like, William's going to come and save me. And he's like, oh, so you do remember.
Yeah, well, and I think he's starting to realize too that it was always going to be a process with her too. That it, that he may have sold her short a little bit. Man, I like we've said, I love that this show answers so many questions. I love that the maze is an actual game that Bernard's son used to play with a little, ball or whatever. And
That there was no great grandeur to it at all.
right, yeah, it was just a way to feel. I love what the show has to say about suffering. Think about the central core question that people ask about religion a lot of times. How would a good God allow bad things to happen? And so you look at something like this and you go, okay, here's an interesting idea. What if suffering is what makes us human? What if it's what gives us, free will and choice? And what if, It deals with some real theological and philosophical things that I love to sink my teeth into.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed all that stuff.
I think what lays under the surface, and there's so much allegory in the show. It's not even funny.
Oh yeah.
And even within each episode, there's multiple instances of it. I think that's the bones of this show. What lies beneath the surface is truly what makes it special, and that's crazy for a show that has such great production values and focuses so much on what's on the surface. You know, I mean, everything is so perfectly done, and I love the way they've constructed not only these characters, but what lies beneath them and their motivations. Okay, the things that haunt them and the things that drive them. You know, and then how it can all be turned on an end. Maeve, when she's trying to convince Hector. You know, and how she makes him see that nothing he does will ever have meaning, you know, in an effort to build her little army. It's kind of brutal. She said, if there's a quote she says in the show where she said that it's isn't it sad when you find out how ugly your fabricated reality is, you know, when you find out that nothing that you know is real, that everything about you is fiction. And it's a trip, you know, when you start thinking about how much of in real life, you know, when we think back to things, the things around us, you know, that are fabricated, the things that we build on.
And our memories are fabricated.
Yes. Our memory can play tricks with this.
Absolutely.
I just had a discussion with my mom.
After scientific study shows that our memories are wrong more than they're right often.
I have these intense, vivid memories of things when I was a kid, and I love doing this game with my mother, where I'll recall something from my childhood, and I'll in detail. And she's like, no, kid. Nope,
never happened.
It's not even like that. So here, and she'll break it down. And it's a trip because it almost warps your mind. And that's what this show does so perfectly. It constantly warps your mind and twists back the layers and goes, but look, you know? And it's just so well done.
Yeah, I totally agree.
That's another twist we didn't talk about, actually, is
her not leaving?
No, that's not a twist, but the fact that Maeve was programmed to try and escape. I did not see that one coming.
I did not see that coming either.
Well, especially by Ford. You know, that I think that was the key twist that everything else relied on, and the reason I think ultimately the season succeeds the way that it does is because it all that works. Like, it's really thought through, and it really works.
They also confirmed multiple worlds.
Samurai World.
Oh, I'm so excited.
By the way, I wanted to say, when they were walking through the hallway and there was an SW, did you notice the logo even
SW.
before they went into the room?
No.
Okay, so, you know, Westworld is WW in the logo. So there's a circle logo on the hallway and it said SW, and I'm like, I wonder if that's Samurai World. I thought Samurai World before they even walked in there and saw Samurais, awesome. And I was like, yes.
I love, like, the little things. There's subtle things throughout the show that they did really good job of hinting throughout things that make you think, like the picture that Dolores' father, that turns out to be William's, you know what I mean? Fiance in real life. Those little things that, like, that don't have major impact on the story, you know, that just kind of lead you into things. And if you pick up on them, they just make you think that much harder because they are stringing you along through this, you know? And they make you start making your own conspiracy theories, you know?
Yeah.
And what did Bernard say to Ford when he was in the room right before Ford made him kill himself? You know, you broke my mind. You know, he's like, I'm opening your mind. He goes, no, you broke it. And that this show did that almost every episode at some point for me. And that's what I loved.
In episode 9, whenever Ford made Bernard shoot himself, that also was one of the most heartbreaking things ever.
Yeah, that
and
killed
I know
me.
that he could come back because he was a host, but still it's...
And Ford knew that.
That incarnation of him, though...
Wow.
That incarnation of him, though, that person that Bernard was in that state, he was so vulnerable, you know, even more so than Dolores ever was during her journey, you know, to sentience, so to speak. I loved Bernard's character.
Who is the most sentient of the hosts?
Maeve
or...
Maeve.
See, I wonder...
I don't think it's Dolores, because she questions...
But
Dolores never figures anything out, though. Mentally...
But I'm saying now, with that last act, I think the show may be telling us that she is now the most sentient. That she is now because of her choice she had the choice whether to do that or not. It wasn't something that she was necessarily programmed to do. At least that's how I interpret.
In the last episode, she did find the center of the maze.
Right.
So
yeah, and I don't know, but Maeve's certainly the other choice.
it's Teddy.
Oh god, Teddy, and you know what frustrates me about Teddy is they set him up so early to be like, the hero, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The good guy. He is the most clueless and worthless character. Now I
love him,
understand
though.
why Ed Harris. And by the way, Ed Harris is one of those actors. He could be in a laundry detergent commercial, and it would be my favorite laundry.
Absolutely.
I love Ed Harris and anything he touches.
Yeah.
But you understand his animosity for younger Teddy.
His disgust.
Absolute disgust.
Yeah.
He despises and is disgusted by this, previous version, younger version of himself. He's as being so clueless and deluded and, mindless. And the way he toys with him. And the more I see Teddy, there were times where I felt sympathetic to him. And then I was like, dude, you're a monster, you know? And then I'm just like, he's almost the disposable character. He's the fill-in because he is so clueless about anything.
There is one more twist I'd like to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, I was about to bring up one too, but go ahead.
One that I did not see coming, and that's that Dolores is Wyatt.
Yeah. I actually did see that one coming.
Really?
For a couple episodes. Yeah, I figured she was Wyatt.
That is great. I love that.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff.
Or that Bernard is Arnold.
Yeah.
That's the one that so I knew Bernard wasn't real.
Yeah, didn't know
from
he
the
was
beginning.
Arnold.
Right.
But it started to come, not episode 3, but I want to say episode 4. I started wondering, wait a second. You know what I mean?
Do you know what I knew?
And I knew at when?
The photograph. When he couldn't see the third person in the photograph.
Yeah.
Oh. I didn't even think about that.
Mine was whenever he asked what door.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
What
that
door?
was
I was
that
like,
was
yeah.
great.
I
was
had a
so
sneaking
great.
suspicion because he had just mentioned that they couldn't see. It's
amazing.
Was, and when he's like, "What door?" I was like, "That's it. That explains it."
I love how meticulously planned some of those things are in this show.
Yes.
More than any other TV show, even Mr. Robot season 1, more than any other TV show, it's one that I think you can go back and watch again and just enjoy it on a completely different level. Like it's just, especially the Ford stuff. I cannot wait to watch season 1 again,
even
knowing
episode by episode.
Yeah,
I bet you could watch. Was it the Well-Tempered Clavier?
That's the crazy twist one with the.
I guarantee you could watch that episode 10 times and still come away with little things that you didn't pick up on the first time you went through it. Because there's so much that happens.
The one I wanted to bring up. Go ahead if you're on topic.
Yeah, I was just going to reaffirm what he said, but go ahead.
The one I was going to bring up when you talk about twists, I don't know if you call it a twist, but it was a revelation moment that I almost jumped out of my seat. Was when Teddy takes Dolores to the sea. And I'm like, there's this ocean here, and he's cradling her, and all of a sudden the lights come on, and everybody applauds. This is right near the end of the season finale.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what?
And Ford's just standing there, hand in pocket.
Yeah, and he's debuting his new storyline.
Yes.
And I was like, well, he's debuting what he's telling people is his new storyline.
Exactly.
His actual new storyline has to do with the host becoming sentient and murdering everybody. That's his actual new storyline.
Yeah.
But man, maybe that's as good a place as any as we kind of finish up here to talk about where does it go? Where does Westworld go?
I don't know, but
I have massacre.
I have one big question that
What's
was
that?
not answered in season 1. Remember the oldest Hemsworth brother, like Chris and Liam? They have
he's still missing.
What happened to him?
He's just still missing.
Oh yeah, good point.
Because the headhunter, like the ghost people or whatever, they just kidnapped him. But that was like 5 episodes
and
ago.
we also don't really know who they are either.
We don't. Yeah, that is one of the things they just kind of left out there.
And we don't know what the rest, like the real world, is like yet, which is something I thought we were going to get in the finale. Was like Maeve getting out, like stepping out, like
I would be perfectly happy with never seeing the real world.
I really kind of want to know what kind of world you live in where this is a theme park. Like
that's true.
You know what I mean?
I want that mystery to
as
just
Dolores
stay.
said, if what's out there is so good, why are y'all clamoring to get in here?
Yeah. It's interesting. Like that's where things start to fall apart for me.
Oh my god, her Wyatt speech to Ed Harris about being the god and then falling and turning into the dust What an amazing speech.
Yeah.
I could listen to that all day. But
I
don't know where the show goes.
I would love to see this be this wherever we call this hub to be Epcot. Okay? And Westworld was one area.
So you're talking about like the nations, like walking around the nations at Epcot?
So we've got Westworld. I want to see Samurai World, and then I want to see where we go from here.
Yeah.
And then I want
Space World.
Yes, some overarching thing that ties these things together that blows
Jurassic
your mind.
Park.
Yeah.
That's what I would love to see.
Hey, it is
Because
Michael Crichton.
building them as individual microcosms would be great. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the things I love. Like Sphere, Congo, like there are so many movies or books, I should say, because the movies are terrible, terrible, terrible.
I like Sphere.
Sphere was, have you read the book though?
No, I haven't.
See, that's the thing. The movie's an abomination once you've read the book.
Okay,
Like,
fair enough.
You can't take that.
See,
By the
I
way,
like Jurassic
if
Park,
you like
the
to
book
read
and the
one
movie,
of the best
even though
books
they're
ever.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. But this is one of those where I don't think you can properly recreate it cinematically.
Okay.
Sphere isn't. And if you haven't read it, please go out and Audible it or whatever your form of ingestion
Of reading.
is. Ingestion
Well, if you're
is.
going to Michael Crichton anything, do Eaters of the Dead first. Because 13th Warrior is surprisingly a decent movie. But that's off topic.
Yes.
Back to Westworld.
But yes, I think if we could build these into these in individual microcosms with this amazing depth that we get in Westworld, okay, and then find a way to tie all this together. If that's their master plan, I hope so.
So are you saying that each season you want it to be a
Yeah,
different
are you
world?
saying that we
Oh,
wouldn't even
absolutely.
see Westworld in season 2?
Yeah,
Like
that's
Samurai
Ooh.
World and stuff?
Ooh, I kind of love that and hate it at the same time.
Because they've spent an entire season building up these characters.
Right, like
and
that's
for them
the
to
point.
drop
Miss
them.
and
these
that's the point.
characters.
And then we get something totally new. And if they could do something even cooler, like American Horror Story does, where the people from the season 1 are in season 2, but totally different characters, new people.
But then they would just whitewash Samurai World.
So, okay, good point. But yes, if we could incorporate some of these characters as entirely new people and new backstories, okay, I think it would be fun because we were already left guessing in many cases as to what their real backstory was, right? Because of all the flashbacks and the rewrites and all that. Now have some of these characters be someone else in, these other worlds, I think could add an element to it too.
I am intrigued by your idea, and I give it about a 1% chance of happening. I don't think that's likely at all, but I am intrigued by that for sure.
Did you guys watch the post-credit scene for the season finale?
What? I didn't even know there was one.
Yeah.
It was a Marvel.
Yeah, they marveled you.
Well, they did marvel me, but I didn't know that they marveled me in that way.
I forget what her name was, but the snake lady.
Yeah.
It was the post-credit scene was her. She'd cut her arm off, and she was just walking down the halls murdering people. It was actually really cool because her arm got stuck in the door.
Yeah.
Was that supposed to be what led to the scene Dolores saw when she was walking through the building?
Yeah,
and everyone was.
She 127 hours herself,
Gotcha.
and then she.
Wow.
She was the one responsible for all that chaos.
Now we're supposed to. Did I follow correctly that Maeve had her body burned so that they could recreate her without the explosive in her spine? Is that what that was?
Yeah,
okay.
Her and Hector, and I guess they burnt. What's her name?
Oh my goodness, how creepy was that scene when they were trying?
What is her name?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Wait, creepy. What scene?
When they're bringing them back online, and that dude's like gonna go have his way with Hector.
Oh,
or whatever,
that was all sorts of wrong.
Every
just
bit of
creepy.
it. Yeah.
This show.
It's a good show.
Good show. I'll watch.
Here's what I
again.
think. Here's
Me
what
too.
I think. Where we're going.
Yeah.
I think season 2 is less about sentience and starts to become about how these now sentient creatures are led into this war. So I think we've seen basically
So you think a war is coming?
I think it's war. I think it's war from here on out.
Yeah,
and I think that
I agree.
you will see Dolores as the general on one side, and Maeve probably eventually, and Ed Harris as the general on the other side. And I think
The machines.
I think it'll be.
You're going to get a
and
Dawn
there
of
will
the
be-
Planet of the Apes thing
and
going
there
here.
will be there will be double crossers. There will be hosts who are working for the humans, and I think we're going somewhere
So it's
completely different.
D-Day from Terminator.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Could be.
I am
but
so excited
Warring
for that
factions.
potential.
And, and you never know who's legit because unless you cut them open.
it certainly can't be like season 1. How do you?
You can't Yeah.
There's nowhere to go that feels like season 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Agreed.
makes sense.
It needs to be something
Unless they do what you're saying and do almost an anthology where they do something completely different, then they could make it feel like season
honestly,
one.
I don't think that's going to happen because this is the show that's going to replace Game of Thrones when it's done.
Yeah.
And if you
that's true.
And if you keep changing it from season to season to a different world, people aren't going to be tied down.
Okay, you just said something that worried me.
What?
Because the idea that this is replacing Game of Thrones when it's done.
That's what HBO has said.
So, like, are they in a lost situation now where they're going to have to make stuff up to keep extending it? Or do you think they have like a 6, 7, 8 season plan?
I guarantee you Jonathan Nolan, being the brilliant mind he is, has a plan.
There was a
for how many seasons,
master plan.
That's quite a task to create a show that's going to last 7 seasons and to really have it plotted like that.
Well, I think that because the source material is one book, as opposed to George Railroad Martin's anthology that's taken him 7,000 years to write. I think that
the last book still isn't out, right? Like he still hasn't.
I think he has 2 books left.
Oh wow,
yeah. But anyway, I think that Jonathan Nolan is a brilliant mind, and I totally trust him more than what's his name? Lost.
Lindelof.
Lindelof. Yeah, I trust Nolan way more than Lindelof.
So
because I look at Lindelof's other stuff like
Prometheus.
Not Prometheus. I'm thinking of Leftovers.
Leftovers, yeah.
Because that's just Lost on steroids when it comes to unanswered questions.
Yeah.
And there's only 1 season left of that.
Yeah, he loves that stuff.
Nolan knows how to answer questions while at the same time making an incredible story that is entertaining from start to finish.
So just to carry on with what you just said, very interestingly enough, if you type the words "how many seasons will," the number 1 search on Google is Westworld.
Yeah.
So James Marsden in an interview revealed that they've already actually mapped out 5 or 6 seasons.
Okay, well that makes me feel better then.
So he says it's not about getting the first 10 episodes done, it's about mapping out what the next 5 or 6 years is going to be.
Can I also say I'm a huge Marsden fan, and I'm so glad he's in this. I
like him.
I really like him, and he is one of those guys.
Cyclops.
He is one of those guys that elevates the material he's in sometimes. Like I haven't seen him in something this good in a while, but when he's in, some of the cheap summer stuff or whatever, I always feel like he does really good work. So
he does. I've been waiting to see him in something. Unfortunately, his character is hapless in this.
Right.
But I love Teddy.
But Teddy could go somewhere, though.
He can.
Teddy could be...
I just want to see them do something with him.
A second season based around the transformation of Teddy might actually be really interesting.
That
if he
scene
was
where
the
Teddy
double
gets on the
agent
Gatling
and-
gun, you know?
Oh yeah, I whooped like a redneck when that happened.
Yeah.
Not kidding. In my living room, I was like, "Get him! Get him!"
I was all about
It reminded me of the scene in the helicopter from Full Metal Jacket where the
Get some,
and he's just get some, and I was like, that's exactly the mode I went into when Teddy hopped on that Gatlin because of everything they'd just been through,
Yeah.
And I totally was fully rooting for him at the time, and at the same time, like oddly, like Ed Harris's character, like grossed out or distanced from him. Like,
Right, yeah,
whoa, you are straight brutal.
Whenever Teddy and Ed Harris or William were going through, it felt like a buddy cop Shane Black drama as they were going down, trying to find the cinder in the maze and stuff.
Yeah,
that's funny.
I have to say, if there's anything that I didn't mention on the negative side, it would be that some of the characters were a little ridiculous. I think of the guys that Maeve worked with in the
Abbott and Costello.
Yeah, they were
idiots.
a little less than fully human. Like the moment where he's like, "Wait, am I a robot too?"
Yeah.
Like was one of my favorite moments because, I've been thinking the same thing, buddy. Like, how would you even exist
but
as who you
it had
are?
a distinct dude, where's my car?
Right,
feel
it was
to it,
weird,
and less Westworld.
Yeah,
And I'm like, oh, Ashton Kutcher is about to punk us. He's about to walk out and be like,
Yeah, those guys.
Yeah, there were a few of those things here or there, but overall, man, just to finish with this moment of all these hosts with kind of this interesting, silly grin on their face as Dolores is mowing people down.
Oh, Trevor. Trevor had the best smile on his face.
Yeah.
Trevor.
I didn't remember his name, but yeah, that's exactly
I'm
what I'm
calling
thinking
him Trevor because that's his name in GTA.
Oh.
So, but yeah, the guy with the mutton stash.
We didn't even talk about the video game analogies here.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
like that
it's
stuff. which is-
hardcore Grand Theft Auto.
Very
yeah,
much
and the
so.
idea,
Yep.
like, do you
Actually,
when
it's
do
more
you
like
start?
it's more like Skyrim or something like that because you're immersing yourself in an entire world.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
I think Red Dead Redemption mixed with like BioShock is like the perfect
But I
analogy.
think
That's such a great.
I think there's legitimate like thought psychological process going on here with the idea of what is actually the difference. Is it just that you're
Absolutely.
They
walking
can come
around in
back with, we
3D
can't.
space? Like, is it like, I mean, as far as like playing Grand Theft Auto
Well, it takes,
and
it
mowing
takes the
people down or
concept
going
of
to a
sandbox gaming
yeah.
and says, what if it was less you on the couch? What if it was more
Right.
you in here?
Yeah.
And that limitless power and that total control and that total like abandon of moral and ethical
Right, right.
values.
Consequences. Abandonment of
If there aren't
consequences for
any-
your choices.
If the consequences aren't permanent,
yeah.
are they actually consequences?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so at that point, you get I forget his name, the one he comes in with originally.
Logan.
You get Logan's character, who's just like whatever. You know? Screw it, kill it, or chase it. I mean, he's just pandemonium.
So I haven't played video games in a long. I just haven't been a gamer in a long time, and I don't like open world games anyway. But like you guys have probably played Grand Theft Auto, those kind of games.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
when you
and all the clones.
when you
Saints Row.
kill somebody in that game,
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
feel a moral tinge?
It depends on the game, actually.
So here's my
I was
here's
just
my
going to
question.
say it's dependent on how it's constructed.
Some games they stay dead, and other games they'll just come back like later on. Like it takes Skyrim for example. You can wipe out an entire village, and you can come back
And it
2 weeks.
repopulates.
You can come back 2 weeks later, and it repopulates. So there are
Which
no
is basically the same as Westworld.
Exactly.
Yes.
But there are games where once you kill somebody, they're gone forever.
And it's
And does that
actually
hit
a
you
consequence
harder?
in the game.
Yeah, because you
Yes.
feel a more moral
Okay,
consequence.
I think I'm asking a slightly different question. I don't want to get lost in this, but
Okay, so there are characters that if I were to kill in a video game, I do feel bad about.
okay,
Is that what you're asking?
kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, but
In
I'm asking
general?
even in general.
Okay, so he's talking about named characters.
Right.
In the concept of NPCs, it's entirely in how the game is constructed.
Right.
Because there are games that create an environment where rampage is rewarded.
Right. Even
And-
like first-person shooters and those kind of things.
If you play like Duke Nukem, you don't feel bad about killing.
Okay, so let's
Right.
start there. So if you play that and you don't feel bad about mowing people down, but you go to Westworld and it's the same idea and you mow people down, don't you think you'd feel different?
No, because here's why. Here's why. Because whenever I'm playing a Duke Nukem game, I'm just throwing that out there. I am not me. I'm Duke Nukem. So Duke Nukem is the one that has ramifications. If I were to go to Westworld,
You couldn't
me.
separate
I
yourself.
couldn't separate myself. I
Yeah.
couldn't.
So do you
there's
think
no
virtual
barrier.
reality will be like that too?
VR and AR, I think, is going to be like the things where you're going to get.
That's kind of like the in between, right? Where you're kind of yourself
Yeah.
moving around in
Yeah,
environments.
Westworld would
but
be much more difficult for me, and that's just because there's a face to things.
I agree.
I am interacting,
So-
and I am feeling and seeing the personality of this thing.
And
There's
here-
not a
that
screen
changes
between
things.
me
Yep,
and what
exactly.
I'm talking to.
Exactly. And I think what's so beautiful about what this show is trying to confront us with is why.
Yeah.
Why does that actually make a difference if it's still just mechanics
It
and
goes
robots?
back to
and-
it goes back to the third episode. If you can't tell the difference, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
And
Exactly.
it
That's what I'm
does.
saying. I think that's the
And
genius
does matter.
of this.
What's
show.
crazy about the show, and goes right along with what you're saying, Aaron, is I distinctly remember moments in this show where I saw someone I knew was an android get killed or hurt, and I felt bad for them.
Yeah.
And in the back of my mind, I know they'll just be taken upstairs,
Right.
worked on, and repurposed
Right.
back out. But I felt a distinct sorrow for them. Dolores' father, it killed me every time they went back down to the basement, and I see him standing there.
Is
Yeah.
that what the show is saying, though? Is the show possibly saying that we think of violence and death as these awful, horrible things, but it's really actually the psychology of it that's horrible? It's not the actual violence and death itself. It's having to suffer. There's a difference between suffering
There is.
and violence and death.
Absolutely.
And one seems to be more permanent and eternal than the other. And I
Yeah.
think the show plays in some of those philosophical questions in really interesting ways.
Yes,
I love that stuff. Any show that can bring this conversation up
Yeah, absolutely.
is a show that's doing some things right. So, yeah, that's probably as good a place as any to kind of finish up, unless you guys had anything else you wanted to...
Can't recommend it enough.
Watch this show. Seriously,
I'm sad it's over for
it's an
now.
HBO show, guys. If you don't have... Here comes the tech stuff. If you don't have HBO, okay, because you don't have like a $450,000 a month cable plan, HBO is now available on just about anything a la carte. So if you've got an iPhone, an Android phone, if you've got a PlayStation, okay, if you go to Amazon Fire TV, Roku, it's worth the $14 a month, even if you just pay for 1 month subscription to see the show. Yeah. It's really, really good. Watch this. It's good.
Yeah.
Or if you want to wait 4 years, you can watch it on Amazon Video.
Exactly.
The only caveat I will give, because I always have to give the caveat about HBO content. You know what you're getting into.
Yes.
You know, if
this is definitely adult themed.
There's a whole bunch of nudity, but it's not sexual, and that makes it worse. I think.
Well, I think that makes it more interesting. Like, I think that's more.
It's haunting.
It's more mechanical.
Yeah, but I think that gives it. There's a reality to it that I think escapes us because we're such a sex obsessed culture that we identify nudity with sexuality, and they're not the same thing. And I think
it's
this
just
show,
anatomy in this.
Yeah, and I think this show understands that better than a lot of shows that use nudity as more of titillation and those kind of things.
Ford says it himself when one of the people is working on one of the androids and it's naked, and they're covering them up, and he's like, it's just anatomy. It's just a machine.
Yeah,
it doesn't have thoughts, feelings. It is what it is. Stop.
So, anyways, I always give that with with that, because I do have a lot of friends and family that want to make sure they know content wise what they're getting into, and so you're definitely getting into. I wouldn't say even Game of Thrones level of violence and sex. I think it's even below that, but it's certainly HBO. So just be aware of that. Well, good chat, guys.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to bring up about Westworld?
I love hanging out with you guys.
Yeah,
man.
This is a highlight for me.
Just need to announce to you, I'm a host. I'm actually
what? You're the host of Siftpop.
Well, who in that world, if you're a host, who in your world is the Ford? Because I want to shake his hand. Because if they can make this, agreeable and likable version of hosts,
you're
I'm all for it.
Sweet. Oh, you're so sweet.
It's Harvey Weinstein. What?
What?
Thanks so much for joining us today for Siftpop. It's part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about other live and later shows on the network by following the feed at mixlr.com/StudioDNA. That's mixlr.com/StudioDNA. Huge thanks to today's guru, Sean from Geek.0.
Woo, golf clap.
Anything you want to promote, Sean?
We have not been doing a bunch lately. Guys, stay tuned. Keep an eye on our Facebook page. We're going to be giving away a copy of Last Guardian this month.
Okay.
Not Last Guardian. We are. You, sir, are excluded. We are giving away a copy of Horizon Zero Dawn.
Whoa.
So this month. So
is it out?
Huh?
It's not out.
We're pre-sale. We're going to give away
a pre-order. They're just
giving away a pre-order
copy.
of it to have it delivered to you the day it launches.
You best be giving that to me early. What you talking about, Willis?
But check out our Facebook, Twitter, any social media.com/geek.0. Keep an eye out, guys. I apologize we haven't been online. For those who have looked at any of our stuff, we are in the process of constructing our new office, and it is almost done.
Very cool.
It looks nice.
We'll be
real nice.
Doing a bit with that once
we're still popping out Twitter updates and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're trying to stay a little bit active, but we've been I've just been down and busy, so I apologize for lack of content.
No worries.
Yeah.
Much love and gratitude also to our Patreon supporters for giving monthly to make this show and others on the network possible. Support starts at $3 a month, comes with some pretty fun perks, including a bonus exclusive pre-show that happens before every episode of every podcast on this network. You can find out more info at patreon.com/StudioDNA. Also, please rate and comment at whatever podcast player you use. iTunes especially, they use that information to promote the show. Be a huge boost if you could leave us a comment there. Anything else you want to say or ideas for the show, you can always hit us up by email. It's feedback@siftpop.com.